I knew one day I'm going to regret if I ever got rid of them. So I always held on to them. So they're really important to me. And I guess they're important to other people too because I see them and they get excited. So it's really cool. I guess, are we starting?
There's Linda.
Yeah, there's the queen. I wish you could have like royalty music, you know?
Free bird.
Free bird, yeah. She's been so cool to me, as you've been so cool to me, you've been so cool to me, and you've been so cool to me, and you've been so cool to me. Very fortunate because people have taken me in, and I wasn't a musician, I wasn't important to the scene, but people have still, you know, appreciated my little piece of passion. So I'm really grateful for that. And I want to thank, because we're talking books, I want to thank Marianne Burnell, who was my editor, formatter, and she's a very nice Christian church-going lady, but I'm telling you, I've really made her cuss. Like, she never cussed until she dealt with me, especially with the typos. In fact, last night, I can't just keep it to myself. But yeah, typos and writing books are yeah. But she, you know what, she puts up with me and she loves me anyways, even though we want to kill each other every now and then.
Like Brenda.
Okay. Yay! Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Hey, guys.
Yay. Linda Ramone.
Hello.
Hey. Stand.
Oh, you want to sit there? Oh, okay.
Not welcome you.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey.
We're gonna be talking. We got JD.
And we got to get Billy Zoom seat.
Where's Billy Zoom? We have this right there.
He's
Hello.
putting some in his car.
Okay, I'll give up my seat to Bill.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
You can sit in my seat.
Hey, how are you? Hello.
Hi, Jack.
Hey,
Nice to see you.
how are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Good to see you.
Hey. Hi. Oh, that's the girlfriend. I recognize this one over here. This friend of yours. Yeah.
How are you?
Good. I'm well, thank you.
Didn't she do something with clothing?
Who? Juju? Yes.
Yeah.
Wait, that's Sherry stuff. No.
Yeah, what did she do?
Juju does. Juju has
Oh, okay.
Thoroughly Presents.
I'll do that all the time.
What?
Sherry stuff.
It's Sherry stuff. Well.
And thank you for the Ramones tribute. I think I only discovered it, it's been, 3 times now? And I'm sorry that I didn't go the years prior because I think I missed out a lot. But the cutest thing was, you had Billy Idol that time. And I was so excited. And I was going, Billy, and Ron, my guy, he starts going, Billy! Oh my God, I love him. That made me I knew I loved this man.
You harassed Billy Idol. Okay.
From afar.
Okay.
But, yeah. So that was when I knew that I made a mistake not coming all these years. But you know what? I want to thank you for doing that because you know what? Families are going there. You're getting families that are seeing the Ramones for the first time and they're together. And it's actually punk rock is wholesome. It's wholesome. It really is. It's a good feeling. So thank you for that.
Well, I love the Johnny Ramone tribute. Do you guys come to the Johnny Ramone
Yes.
tribute?
Every year. Because it's different and it changes every time. But it's like you get a good feeling in your heart.
I think so.
Yeah,
I hope so.
It's a really good, positive thing.
It's Mr.
JD is a very good artist. I love your work.
Oh, thank you.
Beautiful. And with the kitty cat, oh my God, beautiful. Okay. So back to Marianne Burnell. Okay, so that's my editor, and so writing a book is not easy, but it gets done, and I'm very grateful when it does happen. And I have Mark Berry from the UK who really forced me into writing books, especially about punk, and I didn't want to go there, but I'm so glad that he forced me into it because I'm meeting people that I haven't seen. Perry, our cover. Where's the cover? That's Perry, by the way, you guys. Right on the right hand side. Perry, you want to stand just for a second? That is my cover guy. Is that insane or what? Insane. So people that I haven't seen in so many years. So I'm so grateful that this happened. And I want to thank all of you. And I want to thank Book Soup for having me back. You guys are really kind. I try to tweet for you guys a lot, but I know it's not enough. But
You try to what?
tweet. I try to retweet all their tweets about their books. And I try to be a conscious helper when I can.
Yep.
Totally try. You're good at that too. You're a good little marketer, by the way. You are. I mean,
I like Instagram.
Yeah, you're very
I'm
good.
not sure about all the other medias, but Instagram's fun.
No, you're very good with
Because Instagram, if you like a photo, can I just do my thing with you now?
Yes.
Oh, you're doing it.
Oh, no, you want to do your thing? You know what?
No, let's do my thing together.
Okay.
It's more fun.
Oh, good.
Right? Don't you think? Well, it just so happens that all the chapters on this book, they're all fun. And I like my chapter because my chapter is the love triangle.
It is. That was
Now,
my motivation, though.
when you're in a love triangle, I will let you know, you don't know you're in it until 30 years later. When people keep saying it's a love triangle. I looked at the love triangle more like the love boat. It wasn't really a triangle, and you didn't notice it until so many years later. So the triangle of me and Johnny and Joey was amongst Dee Dee Ramone and Marky Ramone. I gotta tell you, it all just blended. It didn't look any more crazier than anything else that was going on around us. So all these years later, to hear about it and you write about it, it's like the most important thing about that love triangle was that the Ramones stood together, like the band, no matter what. So no one really realizes with the Ramones, it didn't matter who you were, who you were in love with. The Ramones were number one. The band was first. So when anyone goes, oh, well, you broke Joey's heart, you did. It doesn't matter. The band came first. No matter what happened, Joey told Johnny, I don't want you talking to my girlfriend no more. Johnny goes, well, she's my best friend. So how are you going to go around that? You just don't. You know what you do? You ignore it, you push it to the side, and the Ramones stay together. And that's the moral of that's this. Because you hear about, Anita and Brian and Keith. That was different. Brian left the band.
Right.
Johnny and Joey didn't leave the band. It was their band. So that's why now when I look back at it and I think, wow, that all did go on. But with the Ramones, every day was a fascinating story and a fascinating van ride, no matter what you did. Because Johnny assigned rows. So you weren't allowed to sit in someone else's row. And me, he went to military school. And not that he had to, he put himself in military school. He asked his parents if he could go to military school. So now that already means he wants to be in charge. He wants to be a sergeant when he's 10. So he became...
But how did you two work together? Because you're not a passive female either. And so how did you guys not kill each other?
I seem to like very odd guys. Like, no matter... But see, JD's like a Joey. Like, there's two types of men in my life. They're either really in charge or not in charge. And Joey didn't want to be in charge, but Johnny did. So, it's just but Johnny was like very intense, but I like intense. So, it makes things magic like that, though. Because you can't be the same. And me and Johnny, we had a lot of things in common, like collecting and collectibles. Like Johnny was a hardcore baseball collector, horror collector. I collect dolls. I mean, so the Ramones was always just fun. Like when people go, oh, Johnny and Joey hated each other. Johnny loved the fact that people always thought that because he would be like that. That's how he was. Every time he didn't want anyone to think that they would get along because that didn't seem punk. Like, who gets along with someone in your band? That's ridiculous. Why would you want to get along with someone in your band? You know? So, and I think the whole thing is, I mean, Joey sent a Christmas card to Johnny every year. I found one once, and I put it in Johnny's book. So, yeah, it's always a love-hate relationship with anyone in bands because you're always together. And after a while, it's like, you know, I remember getting off one tour and I'd see Dee and Vera from the corner of my eye, and Dee started sticking his key into the door like so fast. I don't want to see Linda. And I'm like, okay, I could feel that. And then we have the rooms next to each other, and I could hear Dee Dee and Vera talking about me. And I get up on the counter in the bathroom and I go, I can hear everything you're saying. I'm in the next room and I can hear you through the vent. and he screams in it, "Hi, Danielle." So that's the fun thing about it. And that's why I think the book is interesting, because everybody has their different stories about what they want to do. And punk rock is absolutely the most amazing music of all time. I saw the best bands, from the Dead Boys to the Clash to the Ramones to Talking Heads to Blondie.
The Jam?
I saw the Damned in LA at the Whiskey and at CBGB's. I saw the Damned. It was a Damned Dead Boys weekend.
Oh my God.
That was pretty amazing. And then the next week, like X-Ray Specs came to CBGB's, and the Jam came.
Wow.
I mean, CBGB's was great, and the LA punk scene was a little bit different, because when I first came to LA, I stayed at the Tropicana, and I was 15, maybe 16, with my friend Justin, who was my best friend, and he was in a band called Milk and Cookies, and we went to see The Quick, and we went to see the Damned then, who played. So LA's punk scene was a little bit different than the New York punk scene, because then I went back to New York. Like, I didn't see all of, like, the Germs and the Weirdos, but I was friends with Tomato Duplanty. And when I lived at the Tropicana, I don't know if it was my imagination, but I know it isn't. Do you know Tomato was a milkman? Yeah. So when I lived at...
Right? No?
He was a milkman. When I lived at the Tropicana, he knocked on the door one morning, and it was Tomato, and he was delivering milk at the Tropicana. So the Tropicana for me was the first stop I made when I got to LA. I lived with Justin at the Tropicana. Then when I met Joey, and Joey fell in love with me in the parking lot of the Tropicana. He says it in an interview with Rolling Stone. It was 100B from Danny Says. So that was our first room during Rock and Roll High School. That's when I started first dating Joey. And then the next time we came back to LA, it was End of the Century with Phil Spector. And I was still with Joey, and we stayed on the other side of the Tropicana. And that might have been the year they painted the pool black. Does anyone remember that?
I remember when they did the AstroTurf for Cruel to Be Kind for Nick Lowe.
Okay, but the Tropicana was like the most amazing place, because when I first stayed there, Tom Waits lived there, and Chucky in Love, Chucky Weiss lived there, like, and we were friends with Sparks, and we'd see Sparks, and we'd go to Farmers Market. So LA was always my favorite place. And that's when Johnny was going to retire, and we were going to retire, and he was going to, the Ramones were going to stop. We were like, where can we go and sit by a pool? And here we are in LA.
And he was able to do it, though? Slow down the lifestyle?
He loved it. Johnny loved being retired. He saved every penny he ever had. We lived in a one-bedroom in a studio apartment in New York. The first time he started spending money is actually when we moved to LA, because he knew how much he had and what the Ramones were going to do. And at that point, he loved being retired, because everybody was so nice to him wherever they went. Like, he went on Lollapalooza, and Metallica was nice to them, and Soundgarden was their friends. And Lollapalooza wanted Rancid to go on before the Ramones, and Rancid was like, no way, we're not going to do that. And every night Lars and Tim would come out and sing 53rd and 3rd with them. So, I mean, that's pretty amazing. So that's why punk rock is great, because everybody kind of sticks together, and it's a really nice feeling. And it's just been the most amazing music, I think. I don't think there'll ever be another scene like that for music. I mean, though I did love Glitter Rock. And the Dolls, but I was too young to go out into that, so I hit the first day of CBGB's and punk rock. And now, I don't know who's next, but...
This woman knows what she's doing. She's like, okay, she's in charge.
You're
going?
someone's going.
Okay,
Who's going
Gia,
next?
are you done?
Oh,
You said
Gia,
it all?
you
You
ready?
don't want to talk about Joey and the ring and the song, no?
No, they can read the book.
Okay.
Brenda's amazing book that she put together. Yeah!
No. Oh, you want to talk to me?
Yeah. It's so much.
I'll just go in my head.
Yeah, good.
Okay.
I just want. Do you still have the ring? Did you keep the engagement ring?
Yes, I did.
did.
Okay.
Of course I did.
All right.
And I still have the receipt.
No. That's good.
That will be a book one day.
That's so funny. Hi. My name's
yeah.
Gia DeSantis. I was a DJ at K-Rock. Used to host a TV show that was here in LA in the late 80s, early 90s called Request Video. And until 3 weeks ago, I was the music director for Nevada Public Radio and support your public radio stations because before you know it, they'll pull a plug. Then you're unemployed and you've got plenty of time to come to Book Soup and talk about punk rock without any concerns.
She's got so much going on, though. Please.
No, it's good, and I'm super honored by all of this, and so thank you. And when Brenda asked me to do this, I'm like, I don't think I'm who you think I am. I'm not that interesting, but our stories are actually really similar in a lot of ways. It was like this idea of being sort of a poser but wanting the scene, and I now people will talk to me like they think they can because I'm older. And so, God bless millennials. I love them. I need them. I want them in my life. But they will still look at us at a certain age like, oh yeah, you can't possibly be cool. And I just want to tell them I survived the CBGB bathroom a dozen times and gave birth without drugs. So you cannot scare me. You can't. In fact, the person I gave birth to should be here somewhere. Oh, there she is. There she was. Yeah, so myself.
Oh, very, very cool. This one is the prodigy, though.
She's the prodigy. Well, when I was her age, so she's 21. And I was, so my sister worked at Warner Brothers, the whole thing started. My sister worked at Warner Brothers, and they had all their stuff with Slash, and I would go in, I love your shirt, by the way. And so I would go in when I was this kid, and I came from this upper middle class family, and everything was very proper. But my mom was very anti-MAME, and my sister worked at Warner Brothers, and I would go all the time, and I'd go through the albums, and I would look and I would see these magazines about the things that were happening, and I was totally just taken with all of it. And my mom came home one night and told us that Johnny Rotten was in the lobby with her, and then he smelled like something died in his pants. And I was like, that's so scary. Punk rock's so scary. And so there was this other boy I knew, Larry Pokras, and it was 1978, and he said, come over, I've got this record, you need to hear it. And I was the Van Halen girl. If you wanted, I write about in the book, if you wanted Van Halen logos on your peachy, you came to me. And so we started listening to 999, and we listened to Homicide over and over and over again. And it was like we had this total secret little punk rock life we couldn't let our parents know about. So we started sneaking around as I got older and peeking over and close enough to South Bay, so people like Jack Grisham would be, nearby. Yeah, he's hiding.
I just saw Billy Zoom sitting here.
I know. Hi. So it was, anyway, we're talking about all this stuff, and I would sneak out and go to these shows, and I never fit in, but I couldn't let anybody know I was going to these shows, and I was trying to be good, but the girl I knew who was the most punk rock girl I knew always was in trouble because she was dyeing her hair and giving blowjobs, and I wasn't going to do either of those things.
You scared him with
getting
that
into
one.
trouble,
You
right?
He got very scared about that.
Right. It was, but I
do
wanted
that.
to. I wanted to do it, but I couldn't because my dad was going to write me out of the will. But so I started working this TV show, and because of this TV show that I was working on, I got to meet everybody, and not just meet them, but interview them and produce discussions with them. And Jack and I were talking earlier. I met Jack Grisham when he was doing Tender Fury Press in 1989, and because the TV show was live every day, I would sit with the bands while videos are playing and getting ready, and I got to really know all of these artists and became really good friends with Chip Kinman. Got to meet Todd DeSavia, who doesn't want that. And but the Kinman brothers and the guys in the Vandals and
You met the Ramones.
I met the Ramones. Right.
All these people.
I got to meet Joey a few times, and I was at the Mondrian. We did an interview with John Lydon, and I was standing there thinking, I can't believe this is happening. We're outside on the balcony, and he leaned back and he spit, and then I looked down and he looked down and said, I just spat upon the doorman. And instead of being gooned out by it, I was thrilled because he spat upon the doorman and I watched it happen. Anyway, punk became so much less scary, and I was more, I was so much more comfortable. I felt safer going to punk shows. I felt like there was an intelligence, even though, you know, vandals are talking about Pong and, you know, ordering pizza in their songs, but you had to be smart enough to get it. And I was so honored. I got to, you know, hang out with John Doe on our stage, and it's been like the most extraordinary experience. I hated going to metal shows. It was all very handsy and grabby, but when I would go to punk shows, I felt like everybody had my back. And when Chip Kinman's brother, Tony Kinman, passed away last year, Tom and I actually were at the service together, and the elder statespeople, it wasn't just men, but the elders, the people who I had so much respect for, the most elegant group of human beings with so much pride in their past and carrying it through, and everybody doing good and well, but doing good. And I love this scene more than I can possibly say.
It's a passion, and it doesn't ever die, right? It's something that stays with you.
Right, and I listen to some, like I'll listen to Fugazi, or I'll listen to the new Dill's music that was just released on Omnivore Records, because I'll plug a friend, and I wonder if I'll ever age out of it. Like, will I, that girl who was, you know, my best friend called me when she first saw me on TV, and I was wearing Doc Martens, and in all honesty asked me, are you a lesbian now? I was like, maybe. I could be, but no, that's not, you know, it's just those shoes. But there was the passion, I can't see it going away, but I don't want to age out of that. I want my daughter to, you know, get in. She's not going to have the same opportunities we all had, and that bums me out so hard, because we were part of something that was special. You had to
We had
get
to
there.
work for it though too, because we could just go on the phone and find whatever you wanted. You had to search, and you had to get on the Valley bus or whatever to get over the hill to be able to find the albums, the clothes, and
Or a
you really had to work.
1979 brown Toyota Corolla.
Well, exactly.
Right,
Exactly.
with surfer stickers on it, so I totally didn't fit in, but it was amazing, and I love the stories that everybody has to tell, and it's given me the chance to meet my best friends, and yeah, it's good. So
Thank you.
you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm so glad to meet you finally.
Oh.
Yeah, punk rock has brought people together, people that, you know, I haven't seen in 30, 40 years. 40 years, oh my God. Oh God, I'm just gonna go away right now. Tom DeSalvia.
Hey, everybody.
Hey, Tom.
It's funny, I was just sitting with Jack Grisham having a discussion about imposter syndrome and feeling like a fraud.
Right.
And I have no business being up here, so I'm going to keep this brief because there's people here that changed my life.
Exactly.
And, you know, we set out, I wrote these 2 books with John Doe on the scene because I had sort of the opposite experience of you in that I grew up in a lower middle class family that moved to an upper middle class neighborhood and lived in an apartment in Thousand Oaks, California. And at the time I turned 13, even though I grew up on pop radio, like a lot of us probably did, I couldn't associate with the music. I didn't have the clothes. I didn't fit in. I never invited anyone over to my house because I didn't want them to see where I was living or how I was living. And while everyone was getting, you know, living this life of wealth, I felt really out of place. And I just didn't relate to Rush, and I didn't relate to Journey, and I didn't relate to Styx, and I was like, ah. And I discovered through, I think Brenda was just saying, you know, back then, the only music that you heard was music that your pals had. And I fell in with a couple of punks, and they were playing me music that offended me to all sorts of levels, that I was just like, what did they just say? You know, I was listening to, you know, these bands that was really challenging everything Catholically that I was raised with, and I was like, this is wrong. This is, but it was kind of like that the same reason I was forbidden to listen to Helter Skelter, because I grew up in Chatsworth, not far from Spawn Ranch. So every chance I got, I put it on, and in a way, when we were doing a tour for this book, someone asked me what the first punk rock song I heard, and I was like, oh, Helter Skelter. Because it did that thing to me that punk rock did. It challenged me. It didn't sound like a Paul McCartney song. You know, my parents didn't want me to listen to it. It wasn't that pleasant, but it stuck. And so, you know, the band that really, you know, broke through to me, and I read about this a lot or talk about all the time, was X. And when I first heard X, and via some friends who had the records, I freaked out. And for about a year and a half, all I had were those records. And in 1982, just as I turned 15 years old, a couple of speed freak mods that I befriended at a record store in Woodland Hills called Blue Meanie. It was a great store, if you guys remember that. Fantastic stores. Said, come with us, we're going to the country club to see X. And this was about February of 82. I was beyond excited. I didn't know what this would be like. I was going to a punk show. Now, I'd been to the country club to see a lot of the new wave bands that were coming through. And I wrote about this in the book. That Christmas before, I'd gotten an Argyle sweater from my parents. Like not a cool one, like a May Company Argyle sweater. And it had worked at the Stray Cat show I'd seen. It went just fine. So I was like, all right, I'm going to wear this Argyle sweater. And I walked into hell in that show. And I'm wearing an Argyle sweater, and everyone is staring at me. And I could still feel the cement on the wall as I was like, if I could just push myself through, I'd go through. And basically that night, like, it was when I got over the complete self-consciousness of not fitting in, not dressing the part, not belonging, which had been sort of, I think, a theme for me as a kid and to this day. But the idea of just getting lost in the music. And the first time I saw Billy play live, and the first time I saw DJ, and you know, Exene was up there doing this ethereal thing. I didn't know what was happening, and it was. And I the whole time I was in there, I was like, when kind of that first time you get drunk and you're like, if you get me through this, I won't ever drink again. I was thinking to myself, if you just get me out of this show, I won't go back to a punk show. I'll be a good boy, I won't go back. And it stuck, and I'm just so incredibly thankful that this music exists. And the one thing I'll say that's made me so happy by going through this experience, I wanted to just document this. I wanted this time and this scene to be written by the people that actually experienced it and not fall to revisionist history as it sort of was, as a lot of people here were there and know what I'm talking about. And you know, and so, you know, we blinked and these 2 books were done, and I'm just so happy. But it reinforced that camaraderie that was there, and the importance. And when I tell my stories in the book, which are just these fanboy stories, I can't tell you how many people come up and be like, I had that exact same experience. I'd lived that exact same thing, and it was a really shared experience of kind of having our minds fucked up about music and art, and it was fantastic. And the thing I was gonna say that really warmed my heart when we were going around this book in like November, I think it was either the New York Times or the New Yorker. It might have been the New Yorker in November. You could search it. Did an article about the new punks of Los Angeles and the East LA scene that's happening right now. And I was like, what? And then I went, well, right, I'm too old. I'm not supposed to know about it now. Like, they weren't then. And so I just started to dig into it, and I started to listen to some of these bands, and I went to a couple shows. It's fine, you guys. It's there. It just hasn't, we're not all supposed to be hearing about it just yet. And the record companies haven't come in a way to find a way to kind of fuck it up. But the same, when we go through everything, we're in such a, you know, media barrage all the time about everything that's rotten. And what made me feel good is the same things are rotten for everybody, and everyone needs the same release. And even if it's just like, you know, I'm frustrated, I don't feel comfortable in my own skin, or you know, I don't like what's on the radio, it's there, and I just love that it's being kept alive. And I met Brenda. I'll just say very quickly how I actually met Brenda when she was talking about proofing and stuff. She wrote me, I think via some sort of Facebook or something. She's like, hey, I really like y'all's book. Here's all the typos that were in it. And sent, and she was right, and sent about 40 pages. Like, whoa, which we used to correct the second printing of the book. And we built up a discussion that was happening over email, and I just love that everybody needs to write a book. Everybody can write a book. If you have an experience, write it down. Get it up. Get it out, because this is how history is written. This is how history is written, and this is how history is preserved. So I want to thank you for letting me invade
Thank you.
your night,
Thank
and I'm
you.
honored to be here. And
He's doing the big books. You know, he's got the John Doe thing. He's got the Carol Burnett, and the he's got.
we lost a
he's
Graham
on
to Carol
whole
Burnett.
different level.
She's been out to get me for years.
Yeah.
You know, it's a beloved
Whole different
entertainer.
level.
Right, yeah.
But you guys are amazing, and you know what though? You didn't do something that was, I mean, that punk is getting so much respect now, which is funny considering how it used to be. The punks were kind of like, shunned. You guys rose to the occasion and brought us right back there, and that's the beauty of it. I mean, you brought back our childhood, right? I mean, you go back to those stories and the scene and the feelings that you had. I mean, that's important. That's what you want to evoke. We all want to go back to our childhood, the good parts, not the bad. We want to go back to that milk and cookie kind of feeling, the feel good. And those books do it, right? And the Joey and the Johnny, we all want to go back to that. I mean, seriously though, respect what you guys do.
Yes, Jenny Lenz.
And Jenny is in the house.
Jenny Lenz has arrived.
Jenny is in the house. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. It's a
And
love letter to
ever.
regionalism, and I think you've added to that. We're also LA is a character, and it still is, even though they try to put a Starbucks everywhere.
Thank you.
Thank y'all for listening to us.
I'm not the driver. I'm never responsible for when I get somewhere.
Yeah, that's okay.
So you want me to announce you? Okay, Robert.
Let's do this right. Once on my time.
We call him Fish, F-Y-S-H, so you get it straight. And I you know what? I mean, he's never written a book. He doesn't really think his stories are all that great, but guess what? His stories, they pull you in. You get into his little fucked up mind, and you're just ready, set, go. And it's so good. It's such a good release, and he does take you back to a time, an innocent time, and I love it, and I love what you do, and I wish you would write more. I just don't want to do any more books because of the typos. So Mary Ann Brunell would have a heart attack. So
Hey guys, I'm Fish. I'm an alcoholic. It's the wrong fucking meeting. First, I want to start off by thanking Brenda. I'll get to that in a moment. Book Soup having us. I should be nervous, but I don't have the fucking time right now. I'll be nervous later. I figure this is my one shot, my 15 minutes, and I'm not going to
he
blow
did
it.
say it was his 15.
I actually have a timer. 11 to 15 minutes, so you guys will know when I'm done. After the final, I won't shut the fuck up, seriously. So, first, I got a call from my mom yesterday. And my poor mother, okay? She goes, I read your story. And I said, oh, you did? How'd you do that? She said, well, I bought the book. I'm like, okay, my mom lives in Santa Maria. She goes, you know what? I see now that where you were coming from, what was going on in your life at that time. And there's no way I could have stopped it from happening. I tried everything. I said, Mom, there's no way you're going to be able to stop it. She goes, I understand what happened back then now. I'm like, my mother saying that to me is a fucking miracle. Which is really the point of why I'm so glad to be here, because I got some serious miracles going on. One of them is my mother calling me kind of an amends thing. This is a woman who knew one thing about my program I was in. She knew there was an amends in there somewhere. I get that amends step yet? No, Mom, not yet. Okay, let me know. I will. So she goes, all I was trying to do was just keep you in school. I'm like, I know. There's no way you could do it. She said, I know. I have a report card I brought for Brian. 60 absences in one semester. Fail. Doesn't apply himself. No, I don't have time for school. So, my poor mother. I went to Cleveland High School at one point. I went to a lot of schools in the Valley. I went to Cleveland High School, and 6 or 7 of us were ditching school that day. I was the only one in the school with a mohawk at the time. And the dean, I want to keep his anonymity. His name's John McLaughlin. Fucking prick. He goes, all right, everybody get back to class. Put your cigarettes out. You interest me. Get to my office. I'm like, fine. He sits back in his chair. He's got this smug look on his face. Picks up the phone, pulls up my chart, sees my mom's work number. My mom owned a 7-Eleven down the street. Mrs. Silverman, that's Holland. I'm like, ooh, he's got her on speaker. I'm like, ooh, you fucked up just now, dude. That's my dad's name. They're divorced. He's like, he knows I'm enjoying it, so he's like, all right, I'm just this little prick. Are you aware that your son has a mohawk? Oh, am I a fucking idiot? I know my son has a mohawk. What are you bothering me to work with this shit for? If you can do anything with him, I can't, so go ahead and help yourself. And when she said, what am I, a fucking idiot? His eyes got big. And I'm sitting there, I'm just grinning. I'm like, yeah, you rat bastard. Well, we're going to have to expel him. For what? Well, you can see the distraction of the other students. He has a mohawk. Yeah, we established that, but why are you kicking him out? I have to go now, Mrs. Holland. So that was it. So you know what, Mom? Your pain and suffering, it's now been acknowledged. Those nights that you stayed up while I was running the streets in Hollywood, and, I don't know. I came home when they were at work, so I could shower and shave and not shave. Yeah, shave and run away again. It was great. I literally ran away, lived on the streets of Hollywood. It was great. From 1980 to 1986, that was like my heyday. There are certain periods where everybody discusses about, well, when did LA punk scene really die? And it depends on who you talk to. Like Rosemary Reyes, who was doing punk in the 70s, was like, come on, as far as he's concerned, he was dead by 1979. So for me, it was like 86. I can't remember what it was, but all the pieces were in place. Everything was closed down. The Olympics killed a big part of it too, because they decided to clean up Hollywood, as some of you know. And we thought that was pretty funny, they were going to clean up Hollywood. But they did. And it never recovered from that. So, I gotta tell you that, before I forget, Jack Grisham, who I was living in Santa Maria at the time, and I belong to another group, and I actually hit him up and asked him to come drive up to Santa Maria from here, probably Orange County actually, to speak at a meeting. And he said, no problem. So he drives up there, does his pitch. He says, oh, you know, by the way, we're talking before the meeting. He goes, I used to be in a band. I'm like, oh, really? Who tell? So that was kind of weird. I didn't let on at the time that, you know, he was Alex Morgan at one point. I'm like, I know who you are, but I won't say anything. And we have a responsibility to pay for his motel room and his food and everything. You know what? He drove up. He wanted some gas money to get home. He's going to sleep in his car, and that's it. That's all he wanted. That is serious shit. My heroes, my heroes. It's not what they do on stage. It's what they do off stage. It blows my fucking mind. I wrote the story Black Hole Kid. I'm not going to read any of it. Why would I do that? Buy the book. It's $11. So the way that it came about with Brenda and I was with Facebook friends, random shit, right? Punk rocker. I said one line about a gift of recovery concerning a damn show. Her and I are both smitten with Captain Sensible, I guess. So that came up, and I wrote one sentence. She goes, I like the sound of that. Would you write a story for me? Yeah, I'll write a story for you, no problem. So yeah, no problem. I hang up the phone, go to the computer. I can't write, block, whatever. But I got in my zone. I pounded it out on my computer, emailed it to her, and she responded at some point, probably within the same day. And she messaged me saying, okay, I read it and I sent you what I thought of it. I wouldn't open the email for 2 days. So I'm like, she's going to say, oh, you made a big mistake. I made a huge mistake. I'm so sorry. Never mind, don't write it. I opened the email and I read, you must have known I was going to love this story. I was like, holy shit. So that was the beginning. And then one thing led to another, and with 9 minutes and 9 seconds to go, I got, that actually removed a lot of blockage I've had. I had PTSD from the streets from those days, and I never acknowledged it. When I look back, first of all, the Hollywood punk scene, LA punk scene, I'm very fucking protective. If I'm talking to you, we know who we are. I can smell you out in a second if you were there or not. First of all, you remember everything. Bullshit. You weren't there. You remember too much. How could you possibly? That's not. You can't. Or they'll say little slips like, you know, they'll say certain words. I'm like, all right. But I'm very protective of that scene, and for a long time, because I have emotional and mental disorders, serious shit. I couldn't leave my apartment for 4 years. I was afraid to walk to the mailbox. That's the kind of guy I have. I am. Shut up, think. All right, so there you go. What happened is I moved away for about 8 years, got sober, moved back to LA, and everything had changed. The Damned played the Whiskey. I didn't know about it until it was over. Another show went on. I missed it. What the fuck's going on here? I picked up the LA Weekly. It's not an LA Weekly anymore. It's like a little pamphlet. That was our Bible. The LA Weekly is where you went to find out who was going to be in town. That was it. And now you have to be on Facebook. Oh, it's on Facebook. Oh shit, I was on Facebook to make amends. Now I have to actually do this to find out what's going on. So that was interesting. I don't know what the fuck happened in Hollywood and Highland, by the way. I came out, I'm serious. I hadn't been here in a while, and a friend was visiting from out of town, out of the state. I'm like, okay, here's what you do. When we get to Hollywood, make sure you tuck your purse really high up under your arm, and do not look at the names on the stars on the sidewalk, because people are going to know you're a tourist. They'll roll you. So you got to act like you belong there. We come around the corner, where Franklin is. What the fuck is that building? It's a parking structure. I threw up there. This is why I passed out. It's like, wow. What the fuck have they done to my Hollywood? Shit. I just felt it's like Disneyland. It freaks me the hell out. So, just getting back to 7 minutes. I kind of left the scene behind. I paid attention. I'd come down and see the Dickies. I said a long time ago, as long as the Dickies will play, I'll go see them. I wish they fucking stopped because I'm tired. It's like, oh my God, we gotta go again. I promise. As far as X, I'm sure there's more, but I only know of 2 bands that are still in everybody is still in the band, the original members, X and Subhumans. There might be others, but I don't know any others. So throw a name out if you know, but it's all still intact. I don't know who they are. So I moved back here. Now I'm 8 years sober, and I have a new look on life. But back then it was no big deal, to see, Jack Grisham or anybody. It was no big deal. Tropicana, somebody said Tropicana. Oh yeah, it's where you went after the gigs. But I was like, for the most part, I was a kid that didn't stand out. When the gig was over, I'd go to the bushes. I had to find somewhere safe to sleep. Bushes were there, cool, fine. And that's where I slept. Most of the kids were like 15, 16. When you're 12, and the kids are 15, 16, that's a whole other world. They're not interested in me. It was like, wow. So if I got to hang out with somebody else older, it was like really cool. Okie dogs? Really? I get a bag of fries. I want fries. I've never had an okie dog. I bet they're good. So, I've never had one. I'll bet they're fucking good. But across the street there was a place, I'm sure it was like bikers or something on the other side of the street from Okie Dogs. And the 2 tribes would stand there sitting across the street glaring at each other. Don't you dare cross paths. And that's just the way it was. So I come back here, now I'm sober, and here was the catalyst. Brian Tucker and his former wife, Nikki Tucker. They had an event at the LA Book Fair called Free Use. I wasn't aware of Free Use at the time. Wish I had. I stayed at Motel Hell and stuff. I wish I'd known about you guys' place. They wouldn't have me anyway. Couldn't stay sober. So they had an event. I got invited. And so I'm at the LA Book Fair with my full-on anxiety disorder. Everything's coming at me large. And I'm looking for the little booth. I'm looking for the Free Use booth. Where's the Free Use booth? Where's the Free Use booth? It's in the other room. Turn around the corner. So I go around the corner. I walk in, and there's the fucking room for Free Use. And the memorabilia there. I walked in, and I saw everything at once. And I also have ADHD, by the way, which is awesome. I get it. So everything hit me at one time. And suddenly, all the shitty things that happened, I look back at that scene with rose-colored glasses. It was so much fun. Oh, it was so cool. What I had not remembered was the death that I'd seen. Seeing a dear friend of mine get blown away by a shotgun, close range. And my first thought was, fuck, the cops gonna come, we gotta run. I held on to that for so many years, that guilt of, what a piece of shit am I? Somebody gets blown in half, and my first thought is, the cops are coming. Nikki said, Fish, you're PTSD, and you know what, you were 12 years old. You gotta let that shit go. So, I actually had to flee. I fled the scene, I ran. Total breakdown, I couldn't take it. Nikki coaxed me to go back again. A few days later, I went, and she took me around the room. I'm crying, you guys. Snot's running down my face. I'm laughing. I'm pouring. And people are coming up to her and, excuse me. She's going, excuse me, I'm on a private tour right now. So I got to meet Brian and Nikki. But what that did was that opened up all the trauma. So now what do I do with it? Now I have to fix this shit. So I did. And through doing so, I got back into living fun in a fun way. And I was so inspired by doing a story for Brenda that I decided I have a lot of stories that are really good, and they all want. They're like kids; they want the attention. It's like, if you don't write me, somebody else will, bitch. You better do it. So the first one I went with was an experience that I had with Rick Agnew. Rick is such a fucking good guy. Here's the thing about Rick: if you want to piss Rick off, go to a show where he's playing at, and take no interest in the bands that are there before him, the opening bands. Man, he's like, excuse me, no. You need to see everybody here. And he means that. Seriously. I've seen Rick give up a primo spot so that somebody newer could get his spot. That's the way Rick is. So, it's in the book, okay? Just read the fucking book. I got to hang out with Rick Agnew and Zatan, and I was in heaven. I was in fucking heaven. This was all closure. So that's where the story came from. And at the time of the writing, I believe Black Hole Kid ends where, I kind of befriended Zatan and Rick, and even my fiance at the time, who they welcomed her with open arms. And my poor wife, oh my God, I love her to death. Let's put it this way, she sees and hears shit that I will never see and hear. She lives with that every single fucking day. She's my hero. So, what happened after that? I need to continue the story of Black Hole Kid, because not only did I get to be friends with Rick fucking Agnew and Zatan, Rick performed our wedding ceremony. Rick married us. I never would have seen that coming in a million fucking years. I put the word out, we can't learn how much money, we need to get married. Do you know anybody? Oh, well, Rick could buy you before you. Rick, what? You can do what? He's ordained. So there's a wedding in my backyard where I live with Eric and I, and some intimate friends, and Rick Agnew was there performing the ceremony. Zatan is the maid of honor. It was fucking amazing. I have to write about this. And Rick and my wife Erica share a common, they share something in common that I don't have. And my first instinct was, back to fuck off my Rick. That's mine. You know what? I'm like, shut up, dude. I sat back and you know what? They get to share that. They get to share that. It's none of my fucking business. I don't get it. It doesn't matter I don't get it. Because Erica is the biggest miracle out of all these miracles that have happened. And I said, I got Mom, I got my wife. I don't know how the fuck she puts up with me. I like to say this. I woke up with a hangover and a wife. I think I'll keep her. So, there you go. I hope that this made some sense. You guys can hear my notification in 24 seconds. Billy, Zoom. Thank you so much, Billy, for everything. Jack, thank you. For Billy. Good. 11 seconds, people. Jack. I don't see Rick. I know Rick's here somewhere, though. And Zatan. So, with 4 seconds left to go, I hope that you guys got something out of that, because I'm very blessed. Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. All right, I will. Jack Grisham. By the way, I mean, he can write on toilet paper about nothing, and it's still going to be interesting.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah. Some people have talent.
People belong in jail. Hi,
No,
I'm Jack.
that's
Sorry, I got a mouthful of gum too. I'm glad to be here. It's very nice to be here with everybody and doing this thing. And I thought I would read to you. So if no one else does, I will, because it's easier. Because I don't remember things right anyway. I found that out. I used to tell this story about Liquor Barn. And because I was coming out of Liquor Barn, I was at Liquor Barn this one morning. This is so fucking embarrassing. I tried to get a job as a bartender, didn't work out. But one morning I was thinking, well, if you mix like a zombie is like 2 ounces of this, 2 ounces of this, whatever, right? But you can do it with fists the same way. So it's like I'm figuring, okay, if you just get 2 fists instead of 2 ounces, then 3 fists that, and you just put it in a bucket, then you got a big zombie. This is my thought. And, so when Liquor Barn opened, I rolled up to get some booze. And this friend of mine that really loved me dearly, and she was really sweet and cared for me and still cares for me, she saw me pushing the cart out of Liquor Barn, and she was bummed, because you realized early on this is going on, right? So anyway, I told this story for years, and finally she said, why do you keep saying you were coming out of Liquor Barn? She goes, it was Ralph's. And for some reason, it's like, hey, it's fucking liquor barn to me, man. As far as they got booze in there, and it's like a barn. And so I just stay away from saying I was here on this day and saw this on this day, because chances are I wasn't, and I have no idea what's going on, and it never makes sense anyway. Somebody was telling me about, they just asked me, when's the first time we played CBGBs? I remember it. I remember the first time we played CBGBs. It was the Beastie Boys, Bad Brains, and TSOL at CBGBs. And it was poorly attended. There was, maybe 60 people there. Maybe 60 people. But for all the people that said they were there, it's like, shit, man, I wish they were there, because I wouldn't have lived at my mother's till I was 40. So I would have had some money. So, Brenda, did you bring books here? No?
Oh, I do have a book.
May I borrow one?
Does anybody have a book?
Oh, it's going to have a bin. Do you mind?
No. He's actually going to read from the book.
I'll read it. Because
That's
you got to
great.
get it anyway, and then it's just easier, and then you don't have to. I just lie in the book. Although this isn't a lie. Sadly, I'm working on a thing right now, and I've been running over stories with this guy, and so he tries to get me to explain stories to him, because he doesn't understand. Like, whether punk rock or not, some of us just don't think right. Like, so I kidnapped these guys. They threw a rock through the window of my house. So I caught one of them and then had him at gunpoint to get him to tell on his friends. So he told on his friends. So I picked up him and his friends, and I brought them back to my house. And I was in pajamas at the time, right? And so I brought him into the living room, and I made him watch cartoons with me, and at gunpoint. But I didn't. I just wanted them to like me. You know what I mean? Like that. And the guy's going, I don't understand this, man. He goes, you're kidnapping people and making them watch cartoons so they like you? Is that what's happening? Like, at the time, it sounded legit. You know what I mean? I didn't want them to not feel good about me, but I just didn't. Anyway, whatever. So some of these stories are bad, and and then that's the other thing I struggle with this sometimes too is a lot of this, I tell stories about hurting people, and it's not good. You know what I mean? It's almost like, look, dude, you're walking around telling stories, and the people that were involved in those stories aren't happy about it. A lot of them. And I've had people come up to me and go, God, you got such a great story. It's like, well, why don't you call the victims and see if they think it's a great story? So on the one hand, Fish was talking about it. I do a lot of stuff to pay back for the shit I did. If that makes any sense. It's like I just try to not even get on top, but just even halfway try to even it out. So for the last 30 years, I've paid back for what I did for the first 26. 28, 26, 32, fuck, I'm 30, I don't even know how old I am. It doesn't matter how old I am. All right, here we go. This one's called Bomb in the Schoolyard, a How-To for Kids. And, all right, there was a National Lumber by my mother's house. It was a Home Depot type superstore before the reign of that do-it-yourself conglomerate took over. The National sold wood and gardening supplies and paint and pipe, thick galvanized plumber's pipe. The kind of pipe that one might use if they wanted to make a bomb. I'd never made a pipe bomb, never even saw one, but I wasn't an idiot, and I had a pretty good idea of how it needed to go. As for the fuel, and don't get mad, all right, whatever, let's just keep going. All right. And some shit that used to be okay isn't okay anymore. You know what I mean? It's like, you know what I mean? Like some stuff that we'd laugh and just talk about, it was like no big deal. Now you can't do it. Like you can't say a lot of stuff. It's like I'm an old semi-straight white guy. You know what I mean? It's I guess it's time to lay down or something, The only reason they keep me around is the semi-straight part. I think that's the only thing. I get credit for cross-dressing. All right, anyway. As for the fuel that would drive my device, it was summer, late June, and my friend Todd and I had just ripped off the Association for Retarded Children's fireworks stand. In all seriousness, we probably did those little fuckers a favor. I had the right number of chromosomes, and I burnt my hands 1,000 times on sparklers and the like, so maybe we saved a couple of those kids from losing a finger, an eye, or something even more serious. We drove to the children's stand in Todd's grandfather's lime green 1976 four-door Cadillac Coupe de Ville. We took a bolt cutter to the not even close to secure master lock, and we loaded up the caddy with fuel in the form of 42 block party boxes of the Safe and Sane. The fireworks were temporarily stashed in my mother's garage. So everything went down in my mother's garage. I don't know if you guys know any kind of programming shit, but my mother, the Al-Anon people, never got a hand on my mother. You know what I mean? I would go to jail and I'd get out and my mom would go, "They're always picking on you, sweetheart." It's like, "That's right, Mom." So anything went, my mom would go, "Just stay out of the garage. Don't go in the garage." So anyway, all right, so I'm storing shit in the garage. And a quick side note on my mother, and I'm sorry if I'm talking too long. So I got in trouble. Well, I got divorced. And I said, my mom goes, "So what's going on down there? What happened? I heard there was a mix-up down there." I go, "Yeah, I got asked to leave." And she goes, "Well, what happened?" I go, "Well, I was sending, some fucking text I shouldn't be sending." My mother goes, "Well, she shouldn't be putting all those rules on you." So then I go, "Mom, I'm not an innocent victim." She goes, "You are to me, sweetheart." So I have all the marks of a serial killer with no kills. So if it comes down, you can just say I warned you of it. So, all right. So I walked down the aisle of the National, became lost, asked for help, and was pointed in the direction of the plumbing department. Now, I'm not sure of your level of savvy, but if I was working in the plumbing section and a 17-year-old boy in a swastika-adorned jacket, shaved head, earrings, and a black eye asked me for a foot-long section of galvanized steel pipe and a couple of caps for the ends, I don't think I would have stood around and helped him find the proper thread to end cap combo. I would have called the cops on the little prick or told him to fuck off. The clueless clerk steered me into the pipe section and made sure that I was well supplied. I returned to my mother's house with 2 sections of foot-long, 2-inch diameter pipe, a roll of duct tape, and 4 screw-down end caps. So if you're a kid and you want to make a bomb, this will tell you exactly how to do it. So you don't have to go fooling around. It's real easy, and I'm going to give it to you. All right. The pipe was set lengthways. A large plumber's wrench secured one of the caps. I ripped open a firework box, pulled out a large cone. It was the Mammoth Dazzler. Once the bright carnival wrapping was peeled off, the fuse was wiggled out, and the cone was cut open with a hacksaw. When you strip away the outer covering of these devices, there's a small cardboard. It's a how-to. A small cardboard tube inside. These paper tubes are stuffed with black powder, but not as much as you might think. The fucking things are a ripoff. The fireworks people make the cones look large, as if they take your fucking house down, but unless you doctor them up by turning them into bombs or you light them in your bedroom, the fireworks are nothing more than colored paper, posturing, and a couple of black powder sputters. They're not that dangerous. Cone after cone was dissected until there was a small plastic sandwich bag filled with the gizzards of the fireworks. Sparkly black combustible powder that coated your fingers like glittering night eyeshadow. I went back to the vise. I flipped the pipe around and started pouring the powder in. It reminded me of a fat and diabolical steel pixie stick. When the pipe was about halfway filled, the fuse was threaded into the small drilled hole. A large metal bolt was used to tamp the contents down. I don't know what I was thinking. I'm on a metal pipe loaded with gunpowder, and I'm using a bolt and a hammer to tamp it down. It's like, it's a shock. I got 10 fingers, man. But it's like, well, God was looking out for me. All right. I love these fuckers that always say, God's looking out, God's looking out. I never went to jail. I guess God was backing everything I was doing. So anyway. This was the dumbest part. Metal bolt. I could have been picking shrapnel out of my stomach instead of preparing to blow up a target. I poured and tamped until the pipe was full and then fixed up the other end. To make sure that there was no air in the pipe or loose powder, the end cap was filled before it was force screwed on with a pipe wrench. After sealing it, the fuse was secured with a piece of duct tape, and the end result was a nice little package. The process was repeated to make another bomb. So I'd trade these bombs. Bombs are good trade if you're going to barter. You can do a lot with a bomb. Hey, I got a bomb. Can you let me in? Mike Patton from Middle Class, they were playing a show at the Club 88, right? And I asked Mike, I go, hey, can you get me in? And Mike's looking at me, why do I want to get you in? little boy, what do I want you to get in? I go, because I got a bomb. I'll trade you a bomb. And he looks at me and goes, does that even work? I go, yep, no problem. And I walked across the thing and blew the garage door off of the thing behind it. So they work. Anyway, I walked unobserved and unmolested to the local elementary school, home of the Cubs. There was a row of bungalows on the far end of the playground. They were the original schoolrooms from 1953. It's funny what one thinks about when one is about to destroy something. I thought about the students and if they'd be happy or sad. I wondered if they might have a class pet and if it would perish in the blast. And also wondered if the whole school might go, the fire jumping like hopscotch children across the roofs. I never considered being caught. The thought of it being wrong also didn't cross my mind. Even years later, after thousands of dollars in corrective counseling, I still don't have a problem with what I did. The bomb was wedged, blame them. The bomb was wedged into a piece of broken bungalow siding, and then I lit a smoke. A small plane flew overhead. A dog barked in the distance. A car drove by. I bent down and touched the glowing end of my cigarette to the fuse, and once it came to life, I ran. That's it.
We do a couple minutes of Q&A. I mean,
Yeah.
we have time for that?
Yeah.
Okay, so ask away. Who has a question? For who's got a good question?
What does your daughter do?
What does she do?
There you go.
What does she do? She just graduated. I forget to get all proud. She just graduated from UCLA. In 3 years, cum laude. She kicks ass. She's got a real big girl job. And her current boss doesn't know that yet, so she doesn't drive by. Oh yeah, she gets to do it tomorrow morning. So she's a student going into the world, and I have a son too, equally excellent. And it's I was with my friend Dave Downey, who I worked with at Capitol Records for years, last night. And we're hey Dave, and we were talking to someone last night about discovering bands and stuff, and how it was so different. It's so different now. Like she'll never have that experience we all have because there aren't flyers at school, and it's not sneaking out. I don't think because I would sneak out and I'd pull myself up over while these shows were happening. Black Flag played in a backyard, and watch my friend jump off of the roof at this show and his femur come through, and I'm like, get the fuck away from me. I'm not going anywhere near that. And and they're never I'm making it sound so romantic. They're never gonna have that experience really in the same way. But I mean they've had this really nice little bubble of a life, and it almost makes me sad because it was such a their formative years were sweet, and that's awesome. But it was so much. I don't know. It gives you metal, right, and not METAL. And I just think that the kids that we grew up with, and when I was talking to Brenda about it and saying we had really similar experiences, I read our chapters and it's like we're just posers who liked this music and got really into it. But it saved me because it saved me from this world of nice, and I guess I wasn't that nice. But yeah, so she's
I think we're calling her.
Your Spotify playlist count a little bit. Yeah, that's all rebellion.
I think we're calling ourselves
Ed Sheeran.
posers because we were middle class or upper middle class or middle class. You have
Right.
someone like Fish who talks about actually living on the street. We didn't know from that kind of thing. We kind of like dressed like it maybe, or wanted to be, but we like the girl with the dreadlocks. What was her name? Maggie Dreadlock. Maggie. She actually lived on the street. It was so cool that she didn't have shampoo, so her hair turned into dreadlocks.
Right.
We had homes to go to. It's a different thing. So we kind of felt like posers because we weren't. We weren't street kids.
And I totally felt like what the hell am I doing here right now? It's it's crazy. And when I listen to, so I don't know that Tom mentioned, because we're here for Crime and PUNKishment, and yay. But I'm gonna just for Tom's books really quickly. He did them with John Doe, and it's Under the Big Black Sun and More Fun in the New World. And when you listen to the audio version of those books, and you're hearing everybody tell their stories about exactly what was happening, and and the songs. I was so devastated that I didn't. I was devastated that I was chicken shit. Really, that it's like, well, I don't want it. I never want them to have the kind of fear will keep them from having those experiences. Not that it was pretty, but it was something that I wished I'd lived a little bit more on those things. So I want her to have some experiences beyond, you know, the nice little thing that's going on, but not too many. You know.
You go out and get a fight club after this.
We're going to fight.
Yeah, Fight Club.
It's not that house.
Right.
Appreciate it.